In this video I showed the new fruits, weapons, and swords in Blox Fruits as well as the new NPCs, islands, and fighting styles. Do you want to know everything that came in the update? Watch this video until the end. Starting in the first world, the only things that changed were the chest, the NPC, the weapons, and the fruits. The rest, like the quests and the islands, stayed the same. Here in the second world, it's the same thing. All the islands remain the same, but the chests have changed. The quest, NPC also changed, but the rest, like the quests and the islands, stayed the same. Just so people don't say that nothing changed here in the second world, if you come to the cafe, you'll find this new NPC, but it doesn't directly affect the game or anything like that. So I'm just going to ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. Now in the third world, we had some changes. Besides the NPC, the islands also changed, not all of them. The first island, in the third world, which is the port island, had some changes. Actually, it changed completely. We also had changes on Hydra Island, which came with this new dojo, probably with some quests for you to do, and some new items for you to grab. Our Coliseum also changed. It looks really different now. I didn't think it looked bad, but I found it completely different from the old one. We also have the spot behind the waterfall. We had some changes here. If you break the door, the NPC is still here. And as soon as you manage to defeat them all, it will unlock a secret passage. Before it was behind this waterfall. This time a door opened in the middle of nowhere. And as soon as we finish going through, we come to this underground castle. But I still don't know what this is. If you have any theories, leave a comment. Another island that also underwent changes, but nothing too drastic, was the Great. The size of the island ended up increasing. New mountains also came in. And this mountain here, I found it really over the top. I think that out of all the islands, this one changed the least. Now, other islands like Haunted Castle, Turtle Island, and Big Mom Island didn't undergo any changes. Some fruits underwent changes, and one of those fruits was the cut fruit. Before, it worked simply and didn't have the click. This time, we're going to have the click for it. And the click is really strong because there's no cooldown. I can attack the enemy infinitely without them hitting us. And a good part is that if you're up against a swordsman, he won't be able to hit you. And I'm going to test the abilities with you all. In the first ability, we're going to do some kind of cut. We attack the enemy, turning our body into a sword. In the second ability, we're going to turn into a blade, which will attack the enemy. It's probably an ability that you need to hold. I just clicked. This time I'm going to hold it. And really, we need to hold it to deal the maximum damage. Now in the third ability, when we use it, our arm starts spinning and we attack the enemy. And for some reason, I ended up underground. But this third ability is a good attack. Now the last ability is the movement, which probably won't deal any damage. One of our arms spins so fast that we can fly. But unfortunately, this movement doesn't deal any damage. Another fruit that underwent changes was the diamond fruit. We have 4 abilities, but to use 3 of them, we first need to transform. This is the first transformation ability. This looks a lot like the monster from Ben 10. And the first ability, when we end up using it, we release several crystals on the enemy. That caused almost 5,000 damage, and it's probably an area attack. Now in our second ability, going to use our body to explode and release crystals. And the last ability, which is supposed to be the strongest of all. When we use it, we create a bunch of mirrors that attack the enemy. This ability here looks really nice. And something that surprised me about this fruit is that now we have the click. It's not as good as the cutting fruit, but it does help with something. And a new fruit. It's also arrived, the gas fruit. I've already tested it and unlocked all the abilities, but simply put, it has the click, which is really fast. Can be comboed. We have the first ability where we create this gas around the enemy and then explode it. In the second ability, we have this aura around us and then we attack the enemy with a gas explosion. We're also going to have the movement. It's not that fast, but the positive point about this movement is that you can use it as an attack. You just need to click on the enemy as if you were going to attack and you'll be able to deal damage. The second to last ability, when you use it, you hold it for a while and a bunch of heads will appear. Then you will attack the enemy and deal a lot of damage. This attack is practically guided, and the last ability is the transformation. But for that, I need to have my rage at maximum. Now I can transform and we basically turn into a Susano, which can dash and jump really high. In the first ability now, we're going to unleash a mega explosion. Now, I can transform and we basically turn into a Susano, which can dash and jump really high. In the first ability now, we're going to unleash a mega explosion. In the second ability, we unleash a slash on the enemy and hit a huge area. In the third ability, we're going to be able to create even more heads. With them, we can deal even more damage. I'm also going to have movement where we use the sword to attack the enemy. And now transformed, we continue with the click, which is really good. And the last fruit that was added was the dragon fruit. And if you have it permanently, when you equip it, you can choose which one you want. I'm going to take the normal one, the standard one. I also already have all the attacks unlocked. In the first ability, we're going to create this fireball that we can throw. We're also going to have movement, which we can use to deal damage to the enemy. In the third ability, we can grab the enemy and throw them really far. Besides the animation, really beautiful. In the second to last ability, we can throw a bunch of fireballs that deal a lot of damage and cover a huge area. When you fill the rage bar for the first time, you'll be able to transform into the hybrid form. You become gigantic, catch fire. The attacks will continue the same way. What will change is the scale. And to transform into the dragon, you'll have to increase your rage again. And as soon as you max out your rage, you'll be able to transform into the dragon. This dragon here is really beautiful. To get this armor, you just need to activate Haki. And if you want it to disappear, just deactivate it. Now transformed, the first ability you can use is the explosion. What changes is the distance you can attack from and the damage it will cause. In the second ability, we're going to create a mega explosion. We're going to use our body to create an impact on the ground while it explodes. It'll be the same. The movement. We're going to keep spinning and then attack the enemy. The most absurd thing is the area that this attack covers. Now for the second to last ability, when we use it, we're going to create our own body and release explosions over time. But I did something wrong. The first ability also, the longer you hold it, the farther it goes and more damage it deals. If you just hold, there will come a time when it will release on its own. And in the second to last ability, that I messed up last time, if you hold it correctly, you'll be able to create a mega explosion using that ability. And with the transformation, you'll also be able to use the click. You won't be able to attack with the claw. You'll end up breathing fire on the enemy and dealing a lot of damage. Now with the other version of the dragon, the abilities will be the same. Unless you transform into the dragon, that's when things will start to change. To keep the armor, you just need to activate the weapon's Haki. And to make it disappear, just deactivate it. With this dragon, you'll also be able to breathe fire and you'll be able to fly in a different way. Both of them can fly. Now the first ability of this fruit, going to unleash an explosion just like the first time. And starting from the second attack, it changes because when you attack, you'll unleash a bunch of claws on the enemy. And with the movement, it's going to be almost the same thing, but this time you're going to grab the enemy and then slam them to the ground. And this fruit here, somehow, it can become gigantic. Now the second to last ability is the strongest ability of all. Just aim in the middle of the NPCs and you'll be able to hit them all at once. This is a mega explosion, and while you use this attack, you can take out a whole group to others. And simply put, these are the two versions of the dragon fruit. New NPCs have been added, and among them is this bartender who can change the color of your Haki or your dragon fruit. And to craft, you need to gather some fruits, which you'll find here on Hydra Island. But to be honest, I think we can only find it in bushes. But if I'm wrong, please comment below. And this new NPC that you find here next to the waterfall, Hydra City. And to be able to talk to him, you need to have the dragon fruit, at least 500 mastery in your fruit. And after you have all these requirements, just talk to him. And for 5,000 fragments, friends will be able to ride on the dragon. The only function of it is for your friends to ride on the dragon. And by doing this mission, it will work for any dragon you try to use. Now to talk to the NPCs here at the dojo, which is also in Indra City, need to have the dragon tail fighting style with at least 500 mastery. Once you have the fighting style equipped and enough mastery, be able to talk to the first NPC and he'll give you the first mission. In the first mission, you just need to come here to the last island. And in this new area, you'll need to defeat 20 NPCs using the fighting style. When you go back to the dojo and talk to the NPC, you'll be able to take on the second mission. Just come back to the last island, grab your boat, and defeat 10 piranha fish. After you finish, you come back here, talk to him again, and he'll give you the third and final mission. And you just need to make one trade, and after that, it will be completed. After you complete the 3 missions, you'll earn 3 belts. There are 2 other NPCs inside the dojo, but I still don't know what they're for. And the dragon tail fighting style also got a rework. In the first ability, we throw a punch that traps the enemy and then creates a huge explosion of fire. In the second ability, hand practically turns into a flame launcher. We set everything on fire and deal almost 5,000 damage with one attack. And the third ability is the strongest ability. We're going to do a huge jump that will set everything on fire. Then we'll land on the ground, creating a massive explosion. It's a really beautiful ability. And by hitting 2 enemies at the same time, I dealt almost 12,000 damage. The click is still the same, but even though it remains the same, it's a good click. Apparently, many swords got a rework, but unfortunately, it only seems that way, cause no mythical sword actually got a rework, except for the dual katana class and the true triple katana. But the only rework it got was a visual rework. In the end, not much really changed, and any sword or weapon you use with the armament Haki will give you this effect. And this effect here looks really beautiful. And the Bizento is the first sword that got a visual rework as well as changes to its abilities. Her click stayed the same. Now the first ability, when we use it, creates this shockwave, which is just like the earthquake fruit. And the second ability looks even more like it, where we literally break space-time. And this sword here looks really beautiful. Big Mom's sword. And the Kavander sword didn't have any changes. But now the Minoru, her visual has changed. The attack is still the same, but her visual actually got even prettier. The Kitsune sword, the Lao sword, and the Midnight blade, none of them had any changes, either in their appearance or in their attack. Now Zora's 3 swords have changed in appearance. The attack is still the same, but her appearance has changed a bit. Not only did the appearance change, but also her name, probably due to copyright issues. And this is the third sword that only changed in appearance and the abilities remain the same. The Rengoku sword and the Saber sword also underwent changes, but it was only in their appearance. The Rengoku didn't change much, but now the Saber fruit changed a lot compared to what it was before, and I prefer her in this form rather than the old one. The Shark Anchor didn't have any changes, neither in appearance nor in abilities, especially since her ability is already very beautiful. Katakuri's trident is another thing that didn't undergo any changes, neither in appearance nor in the abilities that we use. And the same thing happens with the other swords. There was only a change in appearance, and no change in the abilities. This sword here, which was the old sword of the Smoke Admiral, looks way cooler now. But the ability is still the same. And there were 5 swords that didn't have any changes, neither in attack or in appearance. And they are pretty basic swords that I expected a bit more from. Now with the weapon, it was completely different. The only weapon that kept its abilities was the Soul Guitar, and even so, her appearance ended up changing. But the ability is still the same. Starting with stealing, he got a lot faster and the 2 abilities got even better. This first ability, it traps the enemy, and if I'm not mistaken, it recovers a bit of your health. As for the second ability, we have a bomb on the enemy. Now with the next weapon, it does an animation when we're shooting and when it reloads. And the first ability, we shoot an explosion bullet, and the second ability is almost the same thing, just a lot bigger. We also have this pistol. Shoots really fast. It's not as fast as the Sterling, but it's still a really good weapon. For the first ability, we release an explosive shot. As for the second ability, explosive shot ends up being much bigger. This second slingshot is the refined slingshot. He's going to shoot much faster than the past one. In the first ability, we also release this ink that traps the enemy and recovers a bit of our health. As for the second ability, we also release a bomb, but this bomb is much bigger. And then it splits into 3, dealing even more damage. Now there's also this magma weapon. When we use it, we release a magma explosion and deal a lot of damage. And it's an ability that also hits in an area. As for the second ability, we're going to have to hold the attack and it will keep releasing magma on the enemy. It's a really strong attack. Our next weapon is this dual pistol. The solo pistol deals more damage and shoots faster. The first ability causes a blue blast and the second fires bullets around. And in the first ability, when we use it, we release this blue explosion. And the second ability is going to be almost the same thing, except we release a bunch of bullets all around us at the same time. This second ability is great for finishing a mission and taking down enemies. The cannon works in a simple way. When we attack, we release an explosive ball. It takes a little while to recharge, and with both abilities, we also release an explosion. The first one has a shorter range, while the second has a longer range, and we can release several bombs that explode on the enemy. Pistol, which is my favorite pistol so far, all of her effects blue. It doesn't take long for you to shoot and reload, but after 3 shots, the reload will take a bit longer. In the first ability, when we use it, we kind of create a bunch of portals. In my case, since I ended up using it on the ground, only one appeared. And the second ability, we practically create a dimension. Besides, this attack covers a huge area. Using the ability better now, you saw that 4 portals were created at the same time. You probably can't pass between them, but it's a good ability. The acid rifle also underwent some visual changes, and the abilities have also changed, but still almost the same thing. In the first ability, release an acid. Actually, we release an acid bomb. And the second ability, we release a cloud of acid. I don't know if I prefer this one or the old one. Visually, this one looks nicer, but the old one seemed to be a little better. And the click isn't that fast, but the good part is that you leave the enemy poisoned for a while. Now with the serpent bow, we have the click, which doesn't reach that far. It's a good ability, and we can also poison the enemy. In the first ability, when we use it, we're going to poison the enemy and release an explosion of poison. As for the second ability, we're going to release a snake that will trap the enemy while poisoning them. We also have the capucha, which is an improved stealing. It shoots really fast and deals a lot of damage. And the 2 abilities, when we use them, first one we release a phoenix, which sets the enemy on fire. In the second ability, we release a dragon of air. Now the last one being the bazooka, we have the click that hits in an area, but it takes a long time to reload. But on the flip side, it can deal a lot of damage. And since it's a bazooka, first and second abilities will be an explosion. The first explosion sets the ground on fire. The second explosion also sets the ground on fire, but this time it is an even bigger explosion. Things that have changed that you've probably noticed are the observation hack. Where you dodge is different, and when your observation hack ends, you get knocked back. When you activate the weapon hack, it also works differently. There's a new animation. The teleport also has a new animation, because when you teleport, it leaves a smoke trail behind. And now when you activate the race's agility, it has a different effect. It's like lightning is coming out of you. And there's also a new island that you can only find by sailing. You just need to come here to the last island, grab your boat, and keep sailing till you find it. But I think that's all for the update. If I forgot something, please comment below, and until the next video.